apply. Tallahassee, Florida, Saturday night. Kirk making his private jet flight down from Tuscaloosa and coming into Tallahassee to call this game with Chris Fowler on ABC. Florida State comes in as a 4.5-point dog. You guys want me to go on this, or you want to start out, or what are we doing here? Just point. Yeah, Florida State's up against it in this game. I think the most important thing in this game is going to be how much Gus Malzahn has left in the tank to scheme in this game. I don't think, and I said this against Alabama too, so maybe it's just me being a doubter and it'll work out really well. But I struggle to see, but Gus was really important in that game. Let's not kid ourselves. I struggle to see Florida State with their with the mismatch that Miami presents along the line of scrimmage, just lining up and physically beating the Canes this weekend. Could it happen? Absolutely. Football's weird and weird things happen. That Alabama result is probably the best data point we have of that for this team in the last 5 years. But asking them to do that again after what we've just seen from the Virginia game, which I do put stock into, but I'm not like, oh my God, fire everybody, season's off the rails just yet. I do think that you will need to rely on both coordinators, both Gus Malzahn, scheming things up and finding a way to neutralize maybe the best player in football right now, Ruben Bain, and Akeem Mesidor, and all of those weapons that they have on defense. You're going to need to find a way to keep them on their heels instead of their toes, which they did incredibly well against Alabama. Offensively, I thought they did really well against Virginia too. Different kind of athlete there. If they can do that and Florida State can continue to move the ball consistently, which right now Florida State has the number one scoring offense and the number one yards per game offense in the country. I understand that two of those came against Cupcakes. They looked really good against Bama and Virginia too when they played Power 4 competition. If they can continue to move the ball and continue to be consistent there, they'll give themselves a chance in this game. Defensively, kind of the same idea. Beck is really good if you're not moving his feet. And they did a good job of getting after Ty Simpson. They didn't do such a good job against Chandler Morris. I do think a lot of that had to do with scheme. I thought it was weird that Florida State never brought more guys down in the box, never tried to make him beat them deep. I think they will adjust that. I just wonder how effective they'll be. Can the front four get home? I'm just going to tell you, I don't think so. They haven't shown any kind of lick of a pass rush yet. Their best defensive lineman gets double teamed every single play. That's Darrell Jackson. Miami may not even need to double team, but they certainly have that luxury because every one of their matchups along the offensive line can beat the other guy across the line of scrimmage. And so I think they will have to get very creative with bringing guys down into the box, bringing pressures, disguising pressures, which Tony White has historically been good at. I just wonder how effective it truly is. If they can move Carson Beck's feet, if they can get him off rhythm just a little bit, I like the matchup in the secondary. I like what Florida State's secondary has been so far this year. I do think that this is a Miami offense that is completely fine with nickel and diming you down the field. I don't think that Beck is just trying to hit 60-yard bombs all day like maybe Lagway's offense tries to at times. So I do think that there is a path, but it will take both coordinators being I think you'll have to win both coaching matchups. Miami is really good. I still kind of say they're the best team in the country. They're the most impressive team in the country so far this year, despite what Oregon just did last week in Happy Valley, despite what Ohio State has looked like so far. I think Miami's been super impressive. Questions for Miami are, how do you handle being away from Hard Rock for the very first time? I think Florida State has shown that they will consistently get up. Shoot, they were like 1-5 at this point last year and sold out the game against Clemson, right? The fans will show up. They will be into it. Not that Beck is going to, not have been in big time environments and played in Austin and played in other places. Obviously, Jacksonville's a split crowd, but he's been there and done that, played in Tuscaloosa last year. I don't really worry about it so much for him, but can it make the difference in the margins? Can you turn a 3rd and 2 into a 3rd and 7 because of a false start or a delay of game or something like that? We saw Alabama struggle with that at times. There were at least 2 of those pre-snap things that I can remember. And so can you get that kind of same result because of the atmosphere, because of the crowd? Can Florida State start fairly quickly, which they've done in every game except for that Virginia game when they went down 14-0? If they can, and the crowd can stay into it, all you can ask for in this game is to give yourself a chance to be in the game late. You can't go down like Florida did early and us all kind of a blown ref's whistle away from going down 20-0 on a play that should have counted as a touchdown for Miami. So I think that's important for Florida State. You can't let the crowd be taken out of it early. I also don't know that Florida State's built to come back against a roster like this. They did a good job. Every touchdown they scored in the game against Virginia, they were trailing, except for the one where it was tied 14-14. I don't know that you can consistently go out and answer Miami and be playing catch up all day. So you got to start fast. The coordinators absolutely have to win their battles, which is not unthinkable. Like, I really like what Gus has done so far through 4 games. And outside of the Virginia game, I think Tony White's been pretty good too. So I didn't love his scheme against Virginia. I think that will get adjusted. But those are the big questions I have in this one. I'll get right back to the video, but first I do want to give some love to our friends over at Sleeper. On the Sleeper app, you can use our code CFA for 100% match up to $100. On Wednesdays at noon, we play the more or less game where you pick 2 or more of your favorite picks, pair them together, and win money. You can win up to 1,000 times your money. We will give you our picks every single week. We're not greedy. We don't hoard these things. Make sure that you are tuned in with us on the Power 2 at noon every Wednesday so that you can be part of those picks. Make sure that you have the Sleeper app downloaded, whether you're just checking scores, you want to see fan crash outs happen as plays are being updated, you want to get in the eliminator leagues, you want to do pick'ems, whatever you're looking for, the Sleeper app has you covered. Check their terms and conditions because terms of use do apply. We appreciate Sleeper for their support.
Me personally, I look at this as a perspective of you've got to be able to change the run defense in some capacity. You have over 200 plus yards on the ground at Virginia. They can gash you if you are Miami. And Miami has 3 running backs that all have proven that they can easily boot, scoot, and boogie like Brooks and Dunn in the open field and make you miss at the line of scrimmage. So Tony White's got to be better at that. I think what's going to be really interesting is that from the offensive side, can you see Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn scheme up something that has Miami kind of slipping at the line of scrimmage? Because Miami is, in my opinion, yet to go up against an offense that is high tempo. And I'm not saying that Florida State's one of these teams that can absolutely just go gun to the metal, run 6 plays in under a minute the way that Tennessee does. But there are some things about Gus's offense that keep you on your toes because if they get to the line of scrimmage fast, they reset the ball, they do a good job of mixing in a run to pass option kind of scenario, and then some design runs with your quarterback that maybe has Miami slipping at the line of scrimmage, and then you get into the open field for an explosive play. That's going to be a lot of ways I think that Florida State is going to have to win this football game. You're going to have to find somebody else outside of Deuce Robinson also. Robinson has been such a godsend for this team. You look at his numbers this year, he's done everything. And that's not to say that he can't do it alone, but I mean, just think about this for a second. He has 346 receiving yards. Everyone else behind him has fewer receiving yards combined than what Deuce Robinson is. So it could be LaWayne McCoy, it could be Jalen Lucas, it could be Gavin Sawchuk, it could be Squirrel White if he's fully healthy. Whoever it is, somebody has got to be able to step on up and be that secondary element if you are Florida State. And then from Miami's perspective, in my opinion, Carson Beck, you get your open shot. Do you let it fly? Again, this is a guy that has 3 interceptions through the first 3 games, through the first 3.5 weeks of the season. Can he do enough in this game to be able to gain a little bit more ground and maybe put Miami in a position where they don't have to just trust the rushing attack? They can go ahead and put it on the back of his back of the shoulders. And he feels like that once again, I'm playing a more cohesive, balanced game of football. I very much think that those are some things that are just beneficial towards his success and very well could be a reason why we are talking about Miami easily march on into Doak Campbell Stadium. Remember, this is their first road test too. So a lot of things going against them that could easily allow Florida State to get right back in this game. Can they set the tempo early on in this matchup to where they take the energy out of the crowd and then they're leaving for the exits in the third quarter?
I have a feeling this one ends up feeling eerily like the Notre Dame game for Miami. And granted, first week of the season, both teams trying to figure stuff out, but I think we can retrospectively look back and say that was a damn good win by Miami now that what we know about Notre Dame and CJ Carr had his very first start on the road, that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of variables you can point to, but I think you're going to see a very similar offensive approach by Miami in this game. In that game against Notre Dame, it was 20 of 30 passing for 205 yards, 6.8 yards per completion, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for Carson Beck. And I mentioned we were talking about sleeper more or less, and I was like, I just think he's going to be less than what that total was. Forgive me, the number escapes me, TJ, but I just think this is going to be what Miami wants to do, and that's run the ball consistently. I don't think they're going to ask Carson Beck to do anything crazy, but every once in a while, Carson Beck can hurt you downfield. They have the athletes to burn you with explosive plays. I think Miami's going to stick to their identity in this one. I do give a lot of favor to Florida State, feeling like Florida State again this year, at least internally and within Tallahassee. I know they feel strongly about this. The game being on the road at Tallahassee, I think is going to be a factor. I still firmly believe Miami is the number 1 team in the country and the most well-rounded team in the country. Defensively, Miami is going to do whatever they can to take away Deuce Robinson. Not that I think he presents the greatest threat of any wide receiver in the country. It's not Jeremiah Smith. It's not DeCorian Moore. But I think you're going to see a situation where they being Miami, will be able to get pressure with 4. They'll load up the box, they'll take away the run, and they will make Tommy Castellanos beat them. So you then have to risk a handful of explosive plays here, but I worry about Florida State's ability to chain together long drives if they don't get those explosive plays. That being said, the spread, as we talked about before, is only 4.5. I think that makes sense. I still like Miami to cover the spread, and I think this thing winds up being about 30-21, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Cole?
I don't like this spot for either team, more so because of, again, you have another bye week to look forward to if you're Miami, and then you're on the road for the rest of the season. And that's where I think it gets a lot of struggles. So you could easily use this as like a stepping stool to where it gives you the opportunity to drop a game later on in the year, and then it puts you in a position where you don't have to worry about not making it to Charlotte. I think Florida State has a lot of things that need to be corrected, and they were exposed last week, and I just don't know if it's going to be able to be fixed in time to go up against Miami. I'm going to take Miami to win. I'm going to take Miami to cover. I'm going to go 30-24. I just think that it's a little bit too close, and then the very end of the fourth quarter, or start of the fourth quarter, Carson Beck makes a big-time play to Malachi Toney, gets to the back of the end zone. So, yeah, 30-24. Covers by 6.
I think if this game's played 10 times, Miami wins at least 7 of them, but I'll be the homer on this one. I'll say Florida State wins 31-28. They find a way at home. Gus does just enough. He's saved just enough. And listen, I think what's interesting about this is that I don't think Florida State has seen a set of trenches like this. I also don't think Miami has seen an offense that's this capable either. And so as good as I feel about their defense, I don't know that I think they hold Florida State down as well as, even Bama did, right? Like kind of similar profiles there defensively. I do worry a ton about Ruben Bain, who I think is the best player in the country right now. Florida State's got to stay in third manageable, which they did very well. Actually, they've done that very well, all 4 games. I think Florida State, it's a repeat of 2021, 31-28, Florida State wins. Complete homer pick, home crowd, and Gus get it done.